So the images on your screen are now, it's just that the body of Kelvin Kiptum has arrived at the Chepkorio ASK showgrounds, where we can see, of course, these are the members of clergy, senior members of clergy. Yesterday we had the Requiem Mass. Some of them are once again represented here again, Okabi. We've seen athletics royalty, athletics top bosses, including World Athletics boss Sebastian Coe Wakabi, who came into the country yesterday to pay tribute to the late.
Yes, and I think it's such a big honor, and it's such a sign of just how revered he was, how highly he was looked at, that Lord Sebastian Coe also is present. There is also, of course, reports the president is going to be there, and when you have a state burial at age 24, Bernard, I think it tells you who you are and the impact you've had in people's lives. And all that just sort of puts together just who he is and what he achieved. And again, and I'll say this over and over again, the sense of loss and the sense of what ifs, what might have happened, what more could he have done, and how are we looking at it as a country. And it's only right that we give him this kind of send-off because of what he achieved in such a short time. So what more can we do? When a person is gone, Bernard, what else can we do? The most you can do is make sure you give him a befitting send-off. And I feel this whole week has been a befitting send-off for Kelvin Kiptum. He's been honored in a way that a country should honor its heroes. Because this country, we are guilty at times of not really acknowledging our heroes, at times not really treating them the way they deserve to be treated. And at least you get the feeling, at the very least, we are giving him the send-off that befits a young man who achieved so much in such a short time, and in that in that little space of time, he's been able to etch his name in the annals of history. When we speak about marathon running, in history, we will always talk about the first young man to go under 201, the man who in 3 marathons was basically almost making a joke of it, like, what's the big deal here? And just kept on going and going and going. And why not give him this kind of send-off? I think it's perfect. I think it's the only thing we can do to someone who's already left us.
Yes, once again, just to remind you, this is the live coverage of the funeral service of the late Kelvin Kiptum, the reigning men's marathon record holder. And you can see there just members of the clergy just making their way shortly, just most probably singing a hymn just to assuage the emotions, just to... You know, the thing is about such moments, Wakabi, it reminds us of our mortality. It's a moment of reflection.
Yes, and that life is fickle. Today you're here, tomorrow you're not. I mean, the man was getting ready to get here, okay? And then all of a sudden, no more running. Instead, we're having his final race today, his final run today. And like you say, it just lets you know that the line between life and death is so thin. One day you feel everything is okay. The next minute you're having to deal with things that are unexpected. So hence the sense of loss, the huge sense of loss. Of course, all deaths, Bernard, most deaths have that sense of loss. Yeah. But I feel like it's bigger when the person is young. It's bigger when it's sudden. And of course, it's bigger when the person is such an achiever, such a person of such impact in society. And I feel like that is why this whole week has been very hard. That's why everything about this week feels surreal. You're sitting here watching and thinking, what are you doing talking over pictures of a burial? And the burial is of a world record holder. Now, we've been here before as a country. This happened in 2011, lost an Olympic champion in the same similar kind of way, the late Samuel Wanjiru. And again, everyone was just wondering, how can this happen to, again, another young man, again, age 24? So it's those things you hope not to have, but this country in the last decade, we've had a few of them. We've had this one, then we had, of course, Nicholas Bett, former world champion from 2015, passing on in 2018. So it's those moments, I think, that just remind us that you all are mortal. These things happen to everyone. And this sense of loss, what can you do other than try and deal with it, try and cope with it, and hopefully everyone is able to move on beyond it. But yes, all in all, huge loss.
Kelvin Kiptum, born 1999, passed on the 11th of February 2024 in tragic circumstances. It's also important to remember that he was accompanied by his coach, Wakabi, Gervais Hakizimana, who was buried last Wednesday in Rwanda. Yes,
a double tragedy, like you would say, because you losing one person is bad enough. To lose 2 is really, really huge. And this makes me wonder just how his camp is feeling. Because his camp has lost their coach, one of their coaches, and they've lost their star athlete. So the sense of loss from both, and both young people, because the coach was what, 37 years old?
Right.
Also still a young man, of course, who's left behind a young family. So it's double tragedy for the camp, for the families, and of course they were close to each other. That's why they were in the same car in the first place. So you would believe that the families also have ties and connections. It's one of those things where I'm not sure you can have the words to really explain it, Bernard, and really sit down and say, you know what, this is it. At times you just sit and maybe you just let the emotions and the pictures speak for themselves.
Right. This is the live coverage of the funeral service that is about to begin shortly at the Chepkorio ASK Showgrounds in Chepsamo. Chepkorio, of course, is where he moved to after leaving where he used to stay with his family to train. He spent so many years in Chepkorio. So this area has lost a son. This area has lost somebody who used to mingle Wakabi with the members of that area in a very familiar way. He would meet people on the streets. There was one gentleman who was saying that at one particular point he met him and he saw him buying tomatoes. He's a friend of his, and Kiptum asked him, what are you going to make? And he said he's going to make a meal. And Kiptum told him, but where's the meat? So Kiptum told him, let me go and buy you meat, and so that you have a decent meal. And just shows you that this is another side of Kelvin Kiptum that we did not know, because we were so used to him competing. We did not know that he had another face to him, another personality that most people did not fully know and fully appreciate.
He didn't give out much. Even in interviews, if you listen to him, he didn't give out much. He just was a quiet dude, didn't say much, other than turning into a beast when he started running. But clearly, from the interviews we saw last night on NTV and the interviews that we've been seeing all along, it just shows you that there was a funny, interesting person behind it. Like, away from the beast that he was on the track, he was a people person. Let's put it that way, because when you hear some of those stories, it just tells you. And guess maybe even just the number of athletes who've showed up today, I think are maybe an example or a depiction of who he was, because when you